Okay, so welcome back to my channel. Okay, so this is Love, Lies, and Records, Season 1, Episode 6. This is actually the season finale. Okay, so last week episode ended with Rob basically confronting Kate about what's going on between her and Rick. And so this week's episode picks up with basically Rob throwing some stuff in the bag. They're, going back and forth. Initially Kate was basically saying that it was just all a misunderstanding. Nothing happened. This, that, and the third. But eventually she did come clean and she did tell him that they did sleep together. And that she was drunk. It was after the Christmas party, And so, she's still trying to stop him from leaving. He basically brushed past her. He leaves the house. He's going to get into the car, and he's basically like, where did it happen? She basically said at work in the storeroom. And so, of course, at this point, he's disgusted, right? He's angry, he's hurt, and he's now looking at her like he's disgusted, right? And so he's basically like, I can't wait till everybody else finds out, and they sack the pay every whatever. It's something he said. And she said that basically everybody in the office they know what happened. And so now he feels like an even bigger fool because he feels like, you can imagine, even though these are not his friends, but to know that other people know that some shady shit is going on behind your back. It almost feels like they're sitting around. You kind of have this image of them sitting around kind of laughing at you and how stupid and clueless you are. And so I think that's basically how he felt. He just felt like, I guess you going through that, you would have a whole host of emotions. So he pulls off. She basically said, "What am I going to tell the kids?" She was like, "Tell them what you want. Tell them that you've been sleeping with some other person." And he basically gets in the car and pulls off. At this time, Lucy comes out and is like, "Well, what's going on? Is he upset?" And she was like, "Yeah, he's upset with me." It's basically she's trying to brush it off. It's no big deal. And she was like, "Well, why are you crying?" And she, tried to play it off like, "Oh, there's just something in my eye." And instead of going after her man or staying at home, Kate grabs her coat and her keys and she jumps in her car and she goes over to see Rick, who's staying with Anna. So she goes in and basically tells Rick that Rob knows everything. And she that obviously he got upset and he stormed out, and basically everything that had happened. And she's asking him like, what is he going to do, where is he going? And he's basically he's emotional, and he feels like he's helping her by leaving. It's going to make it easier for her to I don't know, move past it or get over him, or basically it's going to make it easier for her to work on what she work on getting her family back on track. And she wants him to go, but then she doesn't want him to go, and it's just, she's going through this whole back and forth. But basically he said it was just an interview. He's going to interview for a position, so he hasn't actually gotten a job in another town. He's just, at this point, it's just an interview. Okay, so Kate arrives at work. As she's walking to the building, Thea and Joanne, they're just arriving with their luggage. And it's Thea and Joanne is a same-sex couple where Talia had made a mistake in the registry, and they had to fly back to London to actually correct that. And so she's basically talking to them. They actually hand her a list of their expenses, which totaled like $2,400. So that's something, $2,400 that the registrars they're going to have to reimburse them because it was their mistake. And so they go through that whole situation, and Judy actually, so while I guess they're getting Joanne and Thea and Joanne together, Judy states that she had spoken with Marcia, because at this point Marcia and that whole group don't know that Joanne is now she's now flipped on them, because she now knows the truth about what's going on. And so so Marcia called her to, I guess, set something up for Amir, because she's still trying to get Amir married so he can stay in the country. And so Rick gets to work and he asks about Rob, and basically at this point she had been calling Rob, but he hasn't returned any of her phone calls, so he's been gone all night and she doesn't know where he is or what's going on with him. Next you have Kate finds James in her office crying. And basically, he has come to the realization that he can't be James. Like he can't be James anymore. That he is in fact Jamie, and so he's just going through all of these emotional ups and downs because he know what it, just I guess he considered living his truth, what it could cost him. And so he talks to Kate, and this is when Kate tells him about everything that happened with Rob, how Rob knows everything, and then Rick is leaving, and it's a whole big thing. And of course, so they're both having a moment, of all this emotional upheaval. They have all this, turmoil in their lives. And so, they finally kind of get themselves together, and then Anna knocks on the door, on Kate's door, and she basically tells James that his sons are in the area where they wanted to talk to him. And so basically his sons basically let him know that they know the deal. They found the clothes, they went through this whole thing, and basically let him know that no matter what you decide to do, you're still our dad and we still love you. And that was, I think, the encouragement that he needed to finally live his truth, because he was really concerned about how his children will feel. And the fact that he has two boys, I can imagine that could be tough. So that reassurance from them, I think, really gave him the strength that he needed to move to finally be who he really is. So next thing you know, Kate is she's supposed to officiate the ceremony between this former professional footballer, I guess what we would consider soccer player, and his wife, soon to be wife. So she goes in, and there was some miscommunication. They thought that the registrar would come to their location to perform the ceremony, and Kate was like, "No, this is your wedding." So he's there in jeans and some vest and some t-shirt and tennis shoes, and she's there with her hand rollers. She's talking about she needs to go and get her nails done. She's in some overalls. I mean, these people are not dressed for a wedding, because they thought that the registrar was going to come to their location to perform the ceremony. And Kate had to tell them, well, no, this is in fact your wedding. So of course the woman is panicking, and it's this whole thing, and basically she's saying that in order for us to do the ceremony, you need to have at least two witnesses. And so they rush out on the street, and just trying to pull anybody they can to be the witness. So they just needed two. Surprise, surprise. Two people walk up. It's Rob and Anna. So Rob and Anna walks in, and of course, awkward. It's because you have Kate there as the officiant, and then you have Rick there as well. And so Rick can't even look in Rob's direction. Rob is just like piercing. It's just all written all over his face, right? And so she goes through the official ceremony, and basically, she allowed them to make a donation for $2,400, which just happens to be the cost of the expenses that the office incurred by making the mistake and having the other couple fly back. And so basically they agreed that she would go to the venue and actually do the ceremony again. At the actual venue where, everything is all dressed and it's all decorated, the whole thing. And so that's how they were able to kind of cover the cost and kind of save somebody from getting fired. So they go through the whole process, and they leave. And so then you see Anna and Rob, they're talking, basically she's like, I'm trying to call you, da 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 da. And so they're actually going into a meeting. And so it's Rick is kind of lagging behind them. So Kate goes into the office first, and then he kind of closes the door behind her and basically confronts Rick in the hallway, and they get into a whole fist fight. It's a mess. So after that whole situation, you see in the office, and then you have Matt, Judy, Kate, Anna, and then eventually Rob walks in after his fight with Rick, and he walks in, his lip is bleeding, but so Kate is kind of looking at him like, what in the Okay, anyway, so basically they are basically trying to set up another sting to get Marcia and her little her group on murder and the marriage fraud, or whatever the case. And so they've set things up. I mean, they've gone over the plan, and basically it was decided that Judy would meet with them because they still trust her, but the meeting would take place in the storeroom because they have CCTV. They're going to set up the mics and the whole thing. Now, initially, Kate was against that because under the circumstances, that's where her and Rick had their little situation. So, but, that was the place that everybody decided on. That was pretty much it. And so the date and time was already set up. And they kind of walked out of the office. And so then you have Kate and Rob standing in the hall. And then she had the nerve to question him about Anne. And I thought, well, that takes some nerve. So she was basically asking him, so where was he and what he did, and she's basically accusing him of doing something with Anne the night before, and this whole thing. Now you'd already been busted for screwing around, and now you questioning him about what he was doing. And basically, at first he was offended, like, how dare you question me after what you've done. But then he eventually said, yes, she has feelings for me, and I could have gone there if I wanted to, but I didn't. And so that was, basically it. She was like he's waiting for you. And let me go back a little bit. And so basically, things kind of calmed down. They kind of spoke with their inside voices. And basically you can see Rob wanting to work things out. And so he still wants to take the time off, but he wants to take the time off with her so that they can kind of try to repair what's broken in their relationship. And he basically asked her, like, what happened to us? And all she could do was look at him and say, I don't know. I just don't know. And so he left, and Anne was already outside, and so he left. And he went back to work. And Rick came in. And she saw his face. Oh, it was the naturalization ceremony, because they do that too. When, once you become the whole ceremony of you becoming a citizen. It was that ceremony where Talia's fiance was becoming a citizen. And so, Kate, being the superintendent, she stood up and said a few words. And Rick walked in, and then she saw his face. And, I mean, he gave as good as he got. So, what can you say about that? And she basically said that Rob wants them to go away together. And so he's like shocked, like, what do you mean? What's going on? Because he really, I think he's just shocked that Rob wants to work it out, and she still hasn't made a decision one way or the other. And so Kate and Rick leave because they have to go to the next location to officiate the wedding from the couple they had done the ceremony for earlier in the day. So they're leaving to do that. Christina, who was initially supposed to marry Amir, she walks up with, I think she was Eva's cousin, and she hands Kate a letter, basically saying that she needed to talk to her, but Kate at the time couldn't talk because she had to go over to officiate the ceremony. That was the deal for the $2,400. And so she basically said that she would read it later, but that she couldn't do it at that point. So her and Rick go off to officiate the ceremony. It's a whole big thing. They got all this stuff going on. It was a busy little place, but they got through it. When they got back, Amir, Raman, and Marcia is at the registrar's office, and so they are, they're making sure all of the you have the police officer and immigration. They're making sure everything is set up, make sure all the wires and every I's dotted and every T is crossed. And so Judy eventually goes out to get Marcia and get them, the three of them, and bring them into the location so they can record the interaction. And Judy was basically saying that she understands that Amir's on borrowed time. His visa is about to expire, and so he's gonna have to leave soon. But she found a priest who would do the ceremony in a church, But the thing is, Marcia has to find someone for him to marry. And so basically they was looking for the evidence. So first she had to agree to find someone to marry him so he could stay in the country, which is illegal. And then she threw out a dollar amount. So that kind of solidified that, at that point they had her. But for some reason Kate was like, no, let's wait. And so as things continued, Amir basically said, I've had enough. I don't want to do this anymore. I'm done. I don't want to do any more faking. If you don't want me here, I'll just go home. And so that's when the truth comes out. Amir and Raman are not friends. They're lovers. And so after that was revealed, that's when they stormed the office and took Marcia into custody. And she's basically like, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm not doing anything. And da-da-da-da-da. And that's when Kate sat down with Amir and Raman and basically explained to them, you don't have to do all this. Same-sex marriages was made legal in 2014. Raman is a citizen now. So the two of you can actually get married and you can stay in the country. But they were still pressed for time because Amir's visa was running out in like 3 or 4 days. And so they really had to kind of do a Hail Mary pass and try to get everything kind of situated so that they can have the ceremony so that he was able to stay. Okay, so they got that situated. So back at the station, Marcia, her attorney is trying to tell her, don't say anything. But she was like, no, I'm not going to be accused for this. Basically, she rolled over and basically said she's not responsible for the murder. She did admit to her role somewhat in the illegal marriages. But then she named the ringleader. And it was Laura the whole freaking time. And so, basically, Laura's brother, his name was Stephen or Stephen or something like that. He would get the girls. He would send them there. And Laura would get the girls from the air, pick the girls up, take their passport, basically get them married off. She was prostituting the girls. She was having them, working them like slaves and taking most of their money. It was just, basically everything came out. And Laura, the one who was the concerned friend and the one who was afraid for her life and those people are crazy and they're after me, she was the ringleader the whole freaking time. And so Marcia let the cat out of the bag. And so at this point, Rob and Ann, they're in the interrogation room, and Rob turns to Ann and says, so did immigration pick her up? And she was like, I don't know if they went to departures or arrivals. And so Ann went to check it out. And she was like, oh my, it's arrivals. And so they was like, oh my gosh. So they knew that she had just gotten a new batch of girls in. So Marcia, I guess, had to have given him the location of where she was. Rob bangs on the door. The police are everywhere. Rob bangs on the door, basically saying, Laura opened the door. She opens the door. They take her into custody. They find the girls. Then they flash back to Kate, who eventually sits down to Dominica is there with another couple, and she pulls her into the office so that she could read this letter that Christina gave her. And it was basically Eva basically telling everything that was going on, about how scared she was and how Laura is not this nice person and Steven is not this nice guy and all of the stuff that's going on. She basically is telling everything that's going on. And so Dominica reads the letter. And of course, she's just sitting there like, okay. But she was kind of a pawn in that situation too. It's unclear whether or not what her role was. I guess her role was, in fact, there as a translator. I think she was knowledgeable about a lot of stuff, but I don't know if she was to the extent that it was. Okay, so before Kate went into the office to read the letter and to go through that whole thing, Rick wanted to talk to her, but she couldn't at the time because she was kind of dealing with something else. She basically said that I would find you. But he was basically, you could tell by his face that he was saying goodbye. And so by the time she got everything situated, she went to go talk to him. And Anna said, oh, he left already. And so she knew that, he was gone. And so she went on home. And she kind of sat down, kind of talked to the kids, just normal things. And then there's a knock at the door, and it's Jamie. So he has, now, like I said, he now feels comfortable to be who he really is. And so He brings wine and also brings some luggage. Bring luggage. But he said it's only for a few days till I can find something else. And she was like, "Oh, that's perfectly fine." So, he comes in. They sit down, and then it flashes to Rob and Anna at a bar, and they're sitting down having a drink. And that's basically all you saw with that episode. So you don't. Did Rob go home? I don't know. We don't know because that was the last time you saw him in this episode. But so Jamie and Kate, they're sitting around having a glass of wine. Kate is basically saying that she thinks she made a horrible mistake by letting Rick go. And so Jamie asked her, so like who do you want? And she just said she didn't know. And so next thing it flashes to Rick, and he's speeding down the road, trying to get, I guess, to Brighton, to put as much distance between him and Kate as possible. And then the next thing you know, his phone rings, and then he pulls over. He answers the phone, and she basically says, "This is Kate," or something. She basically, and he said hello, and she basically said, "Rick, hi, Rick," or something, and that's basically how it ended. And so, did she ask him to come back? Or did she tell him to go on? Did Rob ever make it home, or did he make it as far as Anna's house? We don't know. So we're gonna have to wait until next season. All in all, I really do like this show. I wish that I had, because I don't have cable. I just have Wi-Fi. So I wish I can see these episodes when they aired, but I mean, it is what it is. So I can't wait for the second season. And yeah, I think it's a really good show. And if you have the opportunity to check it out, I think that you should. So I'm going to leave this here, and I will talk to you guys later.